Nico here. He has broken down all the remaining teams into tiers. So, Nico, what do you have for us?
There's restrictions to these tiers. You have to put 2 teams in every tier, right? So there's eight teams, 2 will go to each tier. And we begin with the very first tier. We're gonna go in ascending order. So from the bottom all the way to the top. We're gonna rank the teams based on where I think they are, how good they are. My first tier is no bueno.
Oh boy.
All one word, no bueno.
No bueno.
Hashtag.
And in that no bueno, I've put Dortmund. I think naturally out of the remaining teams, they're probably the least best. And I found myself restricted to put Arsenal in there. That's not to say they can't beat Real Madrid, but out of all the teams, I think Arsenal, given the moment that they're in, with all the injuries that they have, their motivations for the season really rely on Champions League because the Premier League is so far away. Arsenal is at the bottom of my tiers, guys.
So you're saying the bottom. Would you put them behind Borussia Dortmund?
No,
or just slightly ahead?
No. I think they are several steps ahead. Like if we're breaking down the no bueno tier,
yeah.
Dortmund is clearly at the bottom. In fact, if I didn't have the restrictions, the only team in the no bueno tier would be Dortmund. But because I have to put 2 teams in one tier, Arsenal makes it.
I get what you're doing. So my first inclination is that means, I don't know the rest of them, but Aston Villa is somewhere ahead of Arsenal.
Correct.
Okay.
So much so.
I have a question
Yeah.
real quick. If we had all our Arsenal fans here lined up in studio right in front of you, do you guys think Nico would have the confidence to say it the way that he said it?
I think he'd actually
100%.
double down, knowing Nico and knowing what's in that mate. He would double down tenfold. I agree with you that the gap between Arsenal and Borussia Dortmund is seismic. And you mentioned the injuries, which we're going to get into the impact of that later on in the show. But don't sleep on the Gunners. Their opponent is there for the taking. I would actually put them into whatever category you're going to put them into next. But I see where you're going with that. And it's all about the vibe around the club right now. And given their opponent, there's a bit of no bueno psychologically.
Given their opponent, I think a no bueno team could end up beating somebody better. So my next tier is all right. And in that tier, I go Bayern and Aston Villa. Obviously, this has a lot of this restriction dynamic in play. Aston Villa are in a historic run of form right now. It's been decades since we've seen Aston Villa this confident, winning games like this. And Bayern, there's something that doesn't convince me about Bayern, but especially about the injuries. Yes, Bayern have that aura, but I think there are 4 better teams than Bayern at the moment. And that's why I saw them fall into this meh category. I would put...
Is it meh or is it all right?
Which one is it? I was told it was all right, but
that's North Jersey.
It's meh. If I had no restrictions, Arsenal would fall into the meh. And maybe Bayern wouldn't be so low in the meh.
So certainly the injuries are a massive talking point. Upamecano, Davies, Musiala going out this weekend. So that's I'm assuming they would again. I'm thinking about so. We're in the they're in the bottom 4. They're basically what 6 and 5 and 6 right now in that group, in the meh group.
Yeah.
So we're going on. So I want to go to Aston Villa because I like this Aston Villa side. And are we taking out form in consideration going into this Champions League tie? But because Aston Villa have been in brilliant form.
Well, that's what I said. They're in historic form.
And PSG is a juggernaut right now, but I just think the matchup is there for the taking. And maybe I need to drink more mate before I say this, but I think this could be a potential upset. An upset for the ages in the Champions League. Aston Villa are a good side. They're not elite. But I don't know if I'd put them because of was it meh or meh?
I don't know anymore.
Meh. Come on, get your onomatopoeia right.
Okay. No, I think this is a good shout. But I think Villa are on the ascendancy for the next category.
But hold on. Sorry, Nico. You like 2 weeks ago, you picked PSG was like the team of the tournament, right? Like, so which one is it? Is it Aston Villa or is it PSG?
I think Aston Villa are the team that no one wants to play right now. PSG are that team in terms of being the underdog that everyone was looking at the schedule. And I'm sure not to say dark horse because that's not the Webster's Dictionary term. But Aston Villa right now, I'm very high on this Villa side.
Tony keeping receipts. I like it. I like it, Tony.
Yeah, listen, this is not to say that a team on a lower tier can't beat a team on a top tier. I actually agree with you. I think Real Madrid are the most beatable they've been in a while. And Arsenal, who are in the no bueno category, could definitely upset Real Madrid. I'm not saying like these are the teams that are going to win. I'm just ranking them as to how they are at the moment. My next tier is top. And the only reason why I put Real Madrid in this tier, Lahoud, it's because they've got that something different. But I'm not convinced with Real Madrid the way that they're playing at the moment. In fact, if I had a choice, if I didn't have the restrictions, maybe they would be lower. And if I didn't have the restrictions, Aston Villa would be a little bit higher. But Inter convincingly are in that top category. Maybe as of late, they've dropped points here or there, and they haven't been at their strongest, but it's a project that you look and you have certainty in what they're going to give you. You know what they are. And what I like most about this Inter team is that they are greater than the sum of their parts. They have a couple of really, really good players here or there, but collectively they are great. And it's going to be a very tough test against Bayern Munich.
And that's been the story for Inter, right, over the last couple of years, is they are a good group, right? They're a good team. They've got a couple of injuries they're dealing with. Çalhanoğlu is just coming back, which is really it's a massive get for them in this stage of the tournament. On that right-hand side, Dumfries, I think, is a big miss. We know how important he's been through Champions League, but I can see, that for me, they fit in, well, I don't know what the next category is, but they fit in this category, no question.
There's only one more category, and then I would like to see how you guys would have made your tiers, understanding this two-team restriction. Elite. And Barcelona and PSG are in that. Barcelona, I think, is a little bit self-explanatory. In my opinion, they're the best team in Europe at the moment. And PSG got through probably the most difficult test that anybody had in the round of 16, which is getting past Liverpool. So I put them in there, champions of France. So how would you guys have changed these categories, knowing that you can only put two teams per category?
Knowing Lahoud, I think he's going to move Dortmund up. Would you do it?
No, look, doesn't matter what the payroll is outside of CBS Sports Golazo Network. I'm not going to be biased in this one, but Tone, you know, I know you got some thoughts.
Just having Arsenal over Aston Villa in general, right? I agree with the argument, right, and what you're saying about Aston Villa, their historic run. I just think Arsenal's still a better side, even with the injuries, even the fact that Mikel Merino's been the number 9 that nobody expected for Arsenal. But that would be it. Other than that, I don't see. Obviously, the story about Real Madrid in this competition, right, and how they always seem to find a way, maybe would put them at the top, but they're not in great form.
That's what brought them down for me. So much so, I think they could have been in the meh category. And maybe I would have been convinced to swap Bayern and Real Madrid, but that intangible that Real Madrid has with this tournament bumps you up a spot.
When you talk about that Jenga, that magic, that's why I would actually bump Real Madrid into that elite category. It's a different kettle of fish when it comes to the UEFA Champions League, and we've seen it time and time again. In the business end of the season, they have elite winning mentality, and that's hard to really push against, to argue with, and it's going to be tested at the Emirates tonight. But that mentality, that switch, that all these players, they just become different players. They become the players that we know they can be on European nights. That's elite.
So who do you take down, PSG or Barcelona?
I take PSG. They're in ascendancy. They are the team that's the hottest team right now. But beating Liverpool, that's a big win. That's a big scalp. But you haven't arrived yet.
Nico, it's very interesting seeing your tiers now based off of how your first Champions League bracket looked.
See, the white didn't want to work because it was so bad.
It didn't want to work, but here it is. Unfortunately for you, man, look at all those red X's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, this is better than mine.
You had Atleti, and who is that in the semifinal?
And Liverpool.
I can't see the
Liverpool semifinal. Okay. How things change, huh?
Atleti. You've been so high on.
Well, you got a chance with the winner.
Yeah, I do. I mean, Barcelona looks good, right? And I thought Lille was going to do it against Dortmund, but Dortmund just had that something extra. But I do think the road ends for them this time around.